YouTube, what is good? We are back right at you with another video. Today, we're going to be talking about how to recognize the pitches coming out of the pitcher's hand, know what he's throwing, and find a way to time that up depending on who you're facing. I know a lot of people that often struggle with timing in this game and just really understanding, what could this person throw me in this situation. So if you are somebody that falls under that category, you are in luck. This video is for you. We're going to break down how to see the ball out of the hand, as well as what motions that the pitcher can do and how the ball looks out of the hand that will tip what kind of pitch that it is that you're about to see. Let's dive into the video. We're going to do this on practice mode. I'm going to do it on legend difficulty just because this is what I recognize most. These still apply in lower difficulties. It's actually going to be easier at lower difficulty because the velocity is going to be a lot lower. But let's take a deep dive into this. Let me show you what I mean. So this experiment that I did can be reproduced. This is something you can do in the game. Go into custom practice. You can pick any teams, any pitchers, any stadium. In this case, I have Aaron Judge facing Pedro Martinez. I personally chose Pedro Martinez because he throws a lot of pitches, very diverse pitch mix, and I think I'll be able to show at least the majority of pitches with Pedro. I know there's a couple things like the splitter, maybe even a screwball I'll have to find a different pitcher for. But this type of situation, if you want to do this yourself, go into custom practice, experiment with the different pitches, and just watch to see how it looks out of the hand. Let me show you what I mean. We're going to start with the fastball. We're going to work down the list, and I'm going to show you how this works. So I have mine just throwing down the middle, but you see out of the hand, there really doesn't seem to be any sort of, strange horizontal movement, vertical movement. It looks relatively straight out of the hand. Now, a lot of pitchers tend to have a little bit of run, which means it has a tiny bit of horizontal movement like you saw there. It kind of went a little bit to the left, but that's a standard four-seam fastball. A lot of times, I always say, just like in real baseball, time up your best fastball. I said that in my hitting tips video. I'll link that in the description if you want to take a look at that. But always time the best fastball, especially in MLB The Show. People love throwing their pitchers with outlier on the fastball. If you're not ready for the fastball, you won't be able to hit it. But as you can see, the fastball is relatively straight out of the hand. Usually when he comes set, I stare at his elbow. And once he breaks and brings the ball behind his head, that's when I start to focus on his hand. So when he comes back around and I see out of his hand that the ball looks to be just a straight, in this case, down the middle fastball, I'll be able to adjust and say, okay, that's a fastball. Let me get to it. And in this case, of course, on Legend, it's going to be a little bit faster. But this is where you actually have to be able to adjust. And let's show you off speed, where you have to adjust for it. So the next pitch I'm going to show you is the circle changeup. This pitch also covers the standard changeup and the Vulcan changeup. They're all a little bit different, but it's really not enough to break down and say, oh, well, this is the specific thing that this does. They're essentially the same pitch. They make similar movements. One might be a little bit faster than the other, but essentially they're the same. So as you can see, when it comes out of his hand, it almost floats. And of course, this pitch is a little bit of a bad pitch. It's kind of hung a little bit. But when you see the ball comes out of his hand, it goes up a little bit. And then it starts to come down and it hits the bottom of the strike zone. This type of pitch, when you see that ball kind of rise like that and you're knowing the pitcher that you're facing, if you're able to see that little bit of a rise, you go, oh, that's a changeup. And you could just hit the absolute piss out of it. This is a very big tell for this kind of pitch, which is why changeups a lot of times get hit. I don't know if you've noticed that. I've noticed that in my gameplay. When I throw a changeup that's in the strike zone, it gets hit a lot. It's probably because of this little movement that it makes. Like you see, when it comes out of the hand, it goes up and then it falls back down. So the next pitch is the slider. This one's going to be a little bit trickier to tell. I have it set up on the outside corner. That's, I think, what I would think would be the best spot for a slider. But you'll be able to see what I'm talking about when the ball out of the hand. Let's take a look at the slider. Let's see what it does. So out of the hand, obviously the slider has horizontal movement. A lot of times, the slider will start actually away from the hand. And then about halfway to the plate, you'll see it start to break. A big thing to note with a slider and really any off-speed pitch If the ball is breaking away from the strike zone and it's already a ball, don't swing at it. It won't end up being a ball. Throughout high school playing baseball, I was always told if it starts a ball, it's most likely going to end a ball. So that's something where, in this case, he's throwing all strikes because of where I told him to throw it. But you'll see the ball kind of start out of his hand, and about 3/4 to 1/2 of the way, you'll need to be able to respond to it and see that break and get your PCI to the ball. But at least it tells you, hey, this is a slider. A cutter moves in a similar fashion. However, the velocity is going to be a little bit more depending on your pitcher. Again, 3/4 of the way to 1/2 of the way, you'll see the ball start to break. And again, it's a tell. Every single pitch in this game has a tell that makes it hittable. Once you see that break happen, you go, oh, it's a slider. And you're able to break down and go, like, for example, right around here. You'll see it'll go that way, and you can move the PCI to it. So the next pitch we're going to look at is the ever-dreaded sinker. The sinker in MLB The Show is often one of the best pitches. I have it set up on the low inside corner because I feel like that's just where a lot of people throw the sinker. Let's take a look at it. Let's take a look at the movement. Let's see how you can recognize it. So with the sinker, this one is a little bit harder to read. Because as you saw with that pitch, it starts right and then it rubber bands back left. Similar to the slider, about 3/4 to 1/2 of the way to the plate, you need to have that reaction time and go, oh wait, this is coming back towards me, and be able to react to it. Now the biggest thing too is that it kind of looks like a fastball. There's a little bit more movement than the four seam, but the speed differential, at least for Pedro Martinez, is 4 to 5 miles an hour. That's a pretty big timing window to mess up on. Like that sinker right there looked like a sinker. It looked like it was moving. But every now and then you'll kind of get, I call it the straight sinker, where it's a sinker, but it really didn't move that much. But being able to recognize, again, about a halfway that, okay, this ball is actually going to be moving back towards me. And there's a reason I'm showing you this pitch multiple times over and over. You're able to see it's almost like I call it a parentheses, where it starts here and it kind of comes back. Comes here and it comes back. That break on that pitch, again, is the tell for all of these pitches. If you're able to read right here, it goes, oh, coming back in. You're able to get to that ball and you're able to hit it. You're going to be unstoppable in this game. So next up, we have the curveball. I will die on the hill that says that the curveball is the easiest pitch in the game to hit. This pitch always has a tell to it. Let me show you what I mean. Hopefully you could see it too, and you could hit every curveball you'll ever see for the rest of your MLB The Show career. So as you can see, it's obvious. Every single time the ball starts and it goes way up, it's a curveball. It's obviously a curveball. This is one of the easiest tells of any pitch in the game. Like I said with the slider, if it starts out of the zone, it's going to end out of the zone. It's like you're throwing a balloon. I mean, really. I mean, it starts up, it goes way up, and then it comes back down. But like when you see, usually for me, when I track my pitches, you'll see what I do. You go up, and then you track it back down, just to make sure that it is the curveball, and it's not just like a hung slider or hung changeup. But it looks like every single curveball in this game is just a meatball. It just gets hung left and right. And even on the ones that are like good strikes, it's a very readable pitch out of the hand. And like, again, like you see, he throws it, the ball goes up 3 inches on your screen. That's the only pitch in the game that will do that. So this next pitch I had to swap pitchers for. We're going to be looking at the splitter on Randy Johnson specifically. Obviously, the splitter movement is the same for just about every pitcher. However, of course, Randy Johnson is an absolute menace in the game this year. Let's take a look at what this splitter looks like. So obviously, he throws it. This has similar movement to a fastball, but it breaks off at the end. As you can see, that one was kind of hung, but it looks straight, and then about halfway, it starts to dive. And of course, I have it in the lower end corner because that's just a good location for a splitter. On that, about halfway there, it'll start to dive down, and you need to be able to recognize, like, okay, this ball is falling. I need to go down and get that. A lot of times guys don't have a changeup and a splitter, so this essentially functions as the changeup for a lot of these types of pitchers. That's a good way to read it as, but again, as you can see, it's really not that hard of a pitch to hit, even though this one is, you know, around the 86 to 88 mile an hour range. When you see that downward motion, it's a tell for the splitter. And this works for, you know, outside of the zone, you know, middle, bottom, middle. A lot of times if it gets hung and it's in the higher part of the zone, it actually looks like a fastball. Obviously just a lot slower. But that's kind of a rarity. I wouldn't worry about that too much. No one's going to intentionally throw that. And again, if you're able to recognize the speed of it and go, oh wait, that's not the fastball, and sit on it because you're timing best fastball, you're going to absolutely crush the ball. At the end of the day, though, the best thing that you need to do is know your pitcher and know your opponent's tendencies. Early on in the game, if your pitcher is throwing 80% fastballs, that's probably a pitch that you should be looking for. I personally look for tendencies like, okay, what is normally his first pitch? If his first pitch is always one particular pitch, that first pitch, it's okay to sit on that one, even if it's not a fastball. Of course, too, knowing your pitcher is a beautiful thing in this game. Knowing what pitches he throws. Obviously, if you're sitting cutter and he doesn't throw a cutter, I mean, you're not going to hit the ball. Ultimately, though, if you follow these steps, you follow this video, you could start recognizing what these pitches are. You practice with it when you're inside of custom practice. You will 100% be better at this game. Like I said earlier, if you are playing on a lower difficulty, that is okay. It's actually a lot easier to see it because the ball comes in a lot slower. But that's going to be it for today's video, guys. I'm hoping to put a lot more of these tutorial type videos out. Hopefully, we can make you a better player with these videos. I appreciate everybody who comes in. Please be sure to leave a like on the comment if I missed anything, or if you have your own strategy that works for you, leave it in the comments. I'm curious to know what you do. I appreciate everybody who comes in to watch these videos. Please be sure to drop a sub. I will catch you at the next one, and I hope everyone has a fantastic day.